evening, everybody. I'm Matt Mezzacapo here for King's Court on KCTV. I'm your host, and here with Marcus Mewborn, Eric Drevich, and Tyler Tynes. We are King's Court, and we're going to get started off with a little bit of NBA talk. So, Kobe, big game last night, dropped 40 points, 70% from the field, so it wasn't just a Kobe performance where he's just shooting just to shoot. They're 3 games out of the 8th spot in the West. 7 and 8, a little soft in the West. What do you think is a better possibility at this point in the NBA season, the Lakers making the playoffs or the Indiana Pacers winning the East? I'll start with you, Marcus.
Right now, I'm actually going to have to go with the Lakers making that 8th spot in the Western Conference. I think they're playing really good ball right now. They're really picking it up, and Kobe is playing at a high level.
I mean, for me, it's easy Lakers just because they're only 3 games out. You got Houston, Utah, both with 31 wins at 8th and 7th seed. It's going to be hard for them to keep that up. And like you just said, Kobe's hot. They're on fire. Dwight's picking his game up, even though it doesn't really even have to pick it up. And then with the Pacers, I mean, they're 6 behind the Heat. Heat just won 11 straight. I mean, they get the return of Danny Granger. That's huge. But to close that gap in the little amount of time that they have, it's not going to happen.
I mean, let me give it to you like this. I love what the Lakers are doing. Kobe Bryant just came out in an interview via the Los Angeles Times, and they asked him the same question: could you potentially make that 8th seed before the season's over? And Kobe Bryant was just being Kobe Bryant and said, of course, there's no doubt in my mind, of course we're making the playoffs. There's no way we don't. And so far, I've known not to go against anything that Kobe Bryant says. It's just in my bad nature. I don't gamble against Kobe Bryant. But if you want to look at the stats on the other side of the ball for the Pacers, this Pacers team is one of the best teams defensively in the NBA. Top 10 in block shots, top 10 in rebounding, defensive rebounding pace. This is a top 10 team when it comes to on the glass and block shots and defensive play of the ball. So it's really hard to say whether this Pacers team couldn't contend with the offensive firepower of the Heat, of maybe the Bulls with Derrick Rose coming back, or even as far as a Carmelo Anthony-led New York Knicks team.
And you remember from last year, the Pacers were the biggest problem for the Heat in the playoffs. I mean, the Celtics, we all know what happened with LeBron dropping 40 in Game 6, but the Pacers were their biggest matchup. Staying in the West, point guard is a huge discussion now with the 2 top point guards, in my opinion, in the East out, Rajon Rondo and Derrick Rose. You turn to the West and you got Tony Parker of the Spurs and Chris Paul of the Lakers. I'm going to start it off with you, Tyler. Which one do you think is the better point guard and why? Who would you want on your team?
And it's an interesting argument because this is an argument that's been going on since the last matchup of the Spurs and the Clippers. But if you look at somebody who you want on your team, I'll take Chris Paul because Chris Paul not only is a force in the locker room, he's a floor general on the court. Chris Paul facilitates the ball a lot better than Tony Parker. However, if we're talking about one-on-one or who's the better point guard in my own opinion, I'll take Tony Parker. Per the last 26 matchups, given by basketballreference.com, one of the best statistical sources for basketball information in the world, really. Tony Parker's won 17 of the last 26 contests, going all the way back to 2005 when Chris Paul was in a Hornets jersey. Now, if the argument wants to be made about him being in a Hornets jersey and having a lackluster team while he was there, look at at least the last matchup between Chris Paul and Tony Parker in the playoff matchups. Chris Paul is averaging less than 10 points in the playoffs against Tony Parker. He had 6 points in the last matchup against Tony Parker. So that's really the biggest issue. And if there's one point guard in the NBA that can stop the tenacity, the facilitating ability of Chris Paul, it's going to be Tony Parker.
What do you think, Eric?
I mean, he made a lot of good points. If I'm starting a team from day one tomorrow, and the 2 point guards I have to choose from are Tony Parker and Chris Paul, I'm picking Chris Paul. Just because, A, he could do a lot more for your team. I think Tony Parker has a lot better surrounding cast. I mean, he's been coached under Popovich since he's been in the league, and he's really been on a winning caliber every single year he's been in here. Chris Paul, he's been through the New Orleans years. He's been through having nobody around him, and he's still propelled his teams to the playoffs. And like we mentioned before the show started, Chris Paul could score 40 for you any given night if he has to. It's just right now he doesn't really have to. I mean, Chris Paul averages 9.4 assists a game, and TP averages like 7.3. That's not a big discrepancy, but I mean, he's almost averaging a double-double with points and assists every game.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's really hard. You're picking apples from oranges, you know what I mean? You got these type of point guards, and then you got your Westbrooks and your Rose who are all playmakers. I mean, it depends on what your team needs right now. And I think both are in perfect situations for the game style.
And when you talk about big players like these, championships always come up. Obviously, Tony Parker being a part of such a great Spurs team for so long has 2 championships, as opposed to Chris Paul, who's never won a championship in his life at any level. So it's pretty interesting to see somebody who's very unsuccessful when it comes to championships and somebody who is. Marcus, what do you got? What do you think about Tony and Chris?
I personally think that Tony Parker was playing next to a really good player in Tim Duncan, and he also had Manu Ginobili next to him. And Chris Paul had a really good team down with the Hornets. He had Peja Stojakovic, he had Tyson Chandler, he had David West as well. And that was a really solid team, but no real, I think, star player. And I think now that he has Blake Griffin, this is his time to really get a championship. It's much different when you're sort of the only player there and you're the only person that, you know, they're trying to rely on. We see that with Derrick Rose, how tough it is when he's out in the playoffs. And I just think that right now, I think CP3 is the better point guard. But as far as career, I think Tony Parker has had a better career, but they've been on two different teams.
Interesting point.
And really, it goes back to offense and defense. When you look at Chris Paul, you look at Tony Parker, those are the major differences. We talked about Defensive Players of the Year one time in this roundtable, and Chris Paul's name was mentioned. That's really where Chris Paul shines, his steals, the way he plays the passing lane. His stealing ability, on top of the fact that he's a better facilitator, makes Chris Paul more valuable to a team. But when it comes now in the present time, can Chris Paul really score 48 well anymore? We said he doesn't have to, but really, it's almost can he still score 40 a game anymore? Can he score 30? Absolutely, but 40 is almost a bigger number. Can Tony Parker score 40 anytime he wants? Well, with a multitude of 30-point games already this season, one would believe that he could inch closer to that margin than any other point guard right now in the league, maybe outside of Westbrook.
Kyrie, too.
Kyrie, too, absolutely.
Turn our attention back to the East. Staying with point guards, though, Derrick Rose, former MVP, got hurt last playoffs with the knee injury. Still not back. Questions whether he'll come back at all. But with the trade deadline just passing in the NBA, Reggie Rose, Derrick Rose's brother, came out with some comments about the Bulls' lackluster ability to make some moves at the trade deadline, stating that Derrick, his brother, is unhappy with the current state of the Bulls roster. What do you think about that, Marcus?
I personally think that you have to be careful at the trade deadline because you don't want to just get anything and then give up a lot. You know, I understand where he's coming from where Derrick Rose feels that, you know, sometimes that they don't have enough of a supporting cast around him. But look at it. You had Luol Deng, who ended up being an all-star. You also had Joakim Noah, who was also an all-star. You have players there. I think that what they're really going to need to do is see if these guys can really step up in the playoffs. If they don't step up in the playoffs, then, you know, we're back basically at square one where Derrick Rose is the team, and we've seen that for the past couple of years.
I mean, for me, it's all a bunch of hearsay. I mean, really, it's irrelevant. The Bulls are still in the playoff picture, and if you're going to ask one big need that the Chicago Bulls need, it would be a scoring point guard, and it's Derrick Rose. They're just waiting on his return to really push their game to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And until that happens, I mean, they're stuck where they are. Nate the Great is playing great.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is playing good. Dang's playing good basketball. Noah's playing good basketball. The Bulls are playing good basketball. But to push them up to that other level, Derrick Rose is going to have to come back, and he's going to have to play good. And for his brother to come out and say that the Bulls need to be doing things and Derrick Rose is unhappy, it's just no need.
Yeah, no, and if you look at the Bulls, I mean, they still are in the playoff picture, and they're third in the league in points allowed at only 91, but they're 28th in points scored, so that's where Derrick Rose comes in. What do you think about this whole debate, Tyler?
And I mean, that's the problem. You know, it's why should Reggie Rose really come out? I mean, he's not to say he's no one, he's Derrick Rose's brother, but he's not relevant to the situation. But at the same time, why shouldn't he come out? Why shouldn't he speak on behalf of his brother when his brother really hasn't been that outspoken to front office news, to trade rumors, to any kind of deadlines really around the Chicago Bulls, and this team who's struggling defensively without Derrick Rose, who's struggling because Joakim Noah is really not stepping up as much as he could have. Like, all these players are good. They are all-star caliber players. But that's the problem. They're good when these are great players. Luol Deng is he played in the Olympics. Joakim Noah played in the Olympics in 2008. These are all Olympians. They're all great players. There needs to be a turnover, a step up, and without Derrick Rose in your roster, you would assume someone would take a hold of the mantle. Now Nate the Great is playing great, but there could be some more play there. They don't really have as much of a bench as they could have used. Why not go for Kenyon Martin at the trade deadline? Why not push for Josh Smith? Why not go get Louis Amundsen? Why not bring in another piece to your front court that makes you not just a good team, a 4 seed, a 5 seed, and contesting for playoffs, but a great team, a Pacers, a Knicks, a Miami Heat?
That's a great point because there are a lot of superstars. I mean, semi-superstars and Josh Smith that are out there ready to be traded. The Hawks want to get rid of them.
But just like you said, that semi-superstar, to me, I think what they're looking for is a really good complementary player. You know, when you look at it, I think what you're looking at here is in this league, you have Durant, who has Westbrook. You have, like we just said, Tony Parker has Duncan, and you have LeBron James that has Dwayne Wade, and maybe that's what Rose wants. He wants that other great player.
Yeah.
So to me, I don't think that you should just make a move just for the sake of making a move, because then you give up a lot of value. So I think that they held off, and maybe they're waiting for something better in the offseason or for the next trade deadline.
But this isn't necessarily a team that is an off-season team. This isn't a team that needs to look for pieces when you already do have a superstar, arguably one of the top 5 best point guards.
Yeah.
You need to play for the moment. You need to play for the playoffs, because when you don't have your star player and you need to make a run into the playoffs, to the postseason, you need to make a move that solidifies your power right now. You got Butler on the bench. You've got Bellinelli. You've got Nate the Great. You need to move your pieces now.
That's a great point. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, the NFL Combine has just begun, and we're going to talk about whose stock is rising. Stay with us. Welcome back to Kings Court. I'm Matt Mezzacapo here alongside Marcus, Eric, and Tyler. And we're going to get right into the NFL Combine, the biggest interview in their lives. All these college kids performing in front of all the NFL coaches and scouts. If there's anybody through this process so far, I mean, it's not over yet, that's helped their draft stock and are rising up teams' boards, who would you say?
Well, for me, it's too early for football, but if I could choose anyone, I would probably say Geno Smith. From what I've heard, he's done very good with his interviews. His workouts were really good. He ran around a 4.5, almost the same time as RG3, and he's really shaping up to be a #1 draft pick. And we know sometimes with mobile quarterbacks, sometimes their draft stock can sometimes drop if they don't do good in the combine, but I feel like his is rising.
Eric?
Geno Smith definitely improved his stock. He ran the fastest 40 actually for a quarterback. But the thing about him is everybody knew that he was fast. It's just the trouble that he had with coaching in West Virginia. They said when the play would break down, you should run a little bit more. But he didn't like doing that. He wanted to stay in the pocket. He's afraid of becoming that quarterback that everybody just depends on mobility.
The Donovan
But
McNabb mentality.
Yeah, he could throw the ball. He doesn't want to get stuck in that. But a lot of people actually rose their stock this weekend. They still, defensive backs still have to go tomorrow. I mean, we don't have their numbers yet, but Tavon Austin blew it out of the park. He ran a 4.34, which was one of the fastest for a wide receiver, and he weighed in at 5'8", 174, which is small. But he's going to have to be able to take that beating in the NFL. But, I mean, he played college football. He took beating all throughout there. Mike Mayock says he doesn't question his toughness. Nile Davis, he tore his ACL his junior year in college, came back for his senior year. The whole Arkansas team was pretty much a bust last year. Everybody on Arkansas pretty much hurt their stock. Yeah. But at 5'10", 227, this guy ran a 4.38 and had 31 reps at 225. That's good for a running back. He probably worked himself into the second, third round. Tyler Bray.
This is your boy.
This is my boy. That's my diamond in the rough. You hear about your Geno Smiths, you hear about your Mike Glennons, you hear about your Matt Barkleys. But Tyler Bray, 6'6", 232. I watched all of his workouts. This guy got a cannon, and he's been working with a lot of weapons at Tennessee. And I think if a team gets him, say the Chiefs go offensive lineman or athlete with their first pick, and they take him with their first pick in the second round, I really think this guy has a bright future. And one of his targets, Kourt Patterson, he's probably going to be the first wide receiver taken. 6'2", 220, he ran a 4.42, which is only a little bit slower than Tavon Austin. Tavon Austin's running that speed at 5'8". So that's really extraordinary for a guy like that, especially with he had a 37-inch high jump, which was the most for a wide receiver. That shows explosiveness. I'll turn into the other side of the ball. I mean, defensive players still have to go tomorrow, like I said, but the defensive linemen and the linebackers went today. Deion Jordan from Oregon, this guy's a freak. 6'6", 242.
Highly touted, too.
Ran 4.6, and he had the longest broad jump with 12 feet,
That's
2
insane.
inches. That's ridiculous. He's defensive end, but they have him working out an outside linebacker. He had very similar workout to Andre Smith, and we all see how he panned out in the NFL. He's one of those hybrid guys. He's one of those athletic JPPs where they haven't played football for a real long time, but they have the athletic skill set. So you just got to get a good coach for them, good scheme, and
Comes down to the technique and
exactly,
everything.
exactly. You get a coach like Bill Belichick in there, or Rob Ryan, or I mean, a lot of people have your Jets taking them.
Yeah.
That'd be a good pick for the Jets. But Combine's only the beginning of the interview process. Still have all the individual team workouts and all that stuff.
But this is now starting the process where mock drafts can start to be made with a little bit more of an educated
Emphasis.
mentality, and you know where people are going to fall based on how they perform. Tyler?
But for me, I'm going to have to go with my dreadheads. Cordarrelle Patterson and also Denard Robinson. Cordarrelle Patterson, a big guy, 6'2", 216, 4'4", 240 time, and a 37-inch vertical leap. Also a 10-foot broad jump. Cordarrelle Patterson is just a monster in a Tennessee scheme that didn't play very well last season. But Cordarrelle Patterson is one of the shining stars really in the SEC, probably the first wide receiver taken. And to really come from, I guess, really nowhere really being on the boards, everyone thinking about Tavon Austin, thinking about Robert Lee, thinking about guys like that. And for Cordarrelle Patterson to make the step up to catch all his passes, to have good reps, to run good routes in this entire draft process has just been great for him. And then Denard Robinson, a guy who starts his career as a quarterback, ends up being a wide receiver, and then goes into the combine and makes almost more catches in short-handed grabs than a lot of these guys who've been receivers in bigger name programs for their entire careers. If anyone, Denard Robinson has completely raised his draft stock.
And the thing about Patterson is he's a JUCO transfer.
And he played alongside Justin Hunter, so he was shining too.
Exactly. And last year, it was his only year at a major college, and he blew it out of the water. Not only receiving, I mean, he had 2 punt return touchdowns and 2 kick return touchdowns. So, I mean, he's a playmaker. And like you said, Justin Hunter and Derek Rogers used to be a Tennessee wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, he transferred, he got all the drug problems, but he had a great combine as well. And he's a big-bodied guy. So, I mean, Tyler Bray had the weapons. Yes, his numbers should have been a lot better, but you got to look at that team and the teams that they're playing week in, week out in that SEC.
I mean, obviously, like a lot of players go out there, show their stuff, perform well, but then there are those that really hurt their stock with the combine, either not performing, as we saw Barkley not throwing. I think that really hinders him. And then other players like Jarvis Jones not performing. What do you guys think about draft stock fallers?
I mean, for me, quarterbacks, like you mentioned on Matt Barkley, I really don't think it's going to hurt him that bad. Because for me, judging quarterbacks is kind of unfair. If Matt Barkley came out last year in his junior year, he would have been taken right behind Andrew Luck and right behind. He might even, there would have been consideration of him going before RG3. He comes back because it's his first eligible year that he could play for a championship, and then he has a subpar season. Not really so much him. I mean, how many points are you going to have to put out? Yeah, how many points are you going to have to put up to beat Oregon? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then you go to the defensive side of the ball. Jarvis Jones definitely hurt his stock by not working out. Now, he has spinal stenosis. I can't really delve into what that is, but the other Manning brother quit his career in football because he had it. But then Michael Irvin had it, and he's a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Now, 10 teams don't even have Jarvis Jones on their big board at all. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, that definitely hurt him a little bit.
Tyler?
If anyone from looking at the offensive side of the ball, it's definitely going to be Barkley. Really too injured, and he's coming into this draft. It's just too much to really look at Barkley for teams who want to look at Tyler Bray, who want to look at Mike Glennon, who want to look at Nassib, who want to look at a bunch of other quarterbacks who have proven themselves at the end of the season when Barkley wasn't there. Now, if you want to look at the defensive side of the ball, for me, it's 2 guys. Ogletree from Georgia, who at that outside linebacker scheme, who has had his drinking problems, has had little injuries from here. They're not as big as Jarvis Jones. You know, just everybody has their lingering injuries. But that drinking issue and those DUIs are going to be a big problem for GMs looking at Ogletree as who they thought were one of the better outside linebackers. Then, of course, going back to inside linebackers, Manti Te'o. This whole Manti Te'o situation has been blown out of proportion. The media's been all over it. It's gone on for too long. It's been continued for too long. And GMs are going to start to look at this guy as, well, you were maybe the best coverage linebacker in college football. And now, how are you going to lead my team when you can't lead your own life? How are you going to lead my team through these difficult situations when you almost really got catfished? So it's a problem for GMs talking to Manti Te'o. It's no way that he goes ahead of guys like Ogletree, even guys probably like Jarvis Jones. He might have dropped all
He's still going to go top 20. He's still going to be in that range. But, I mean, today, his 4.28 really did hurt him in the 40-yard dash. You saw some coaches really unimpressed with him.
And I just want to go off of Tyler's point. He made a really good point. And I think this is where the interview process does become a big deal, because coaches want to find that guy that can convince them that they're right for their team. What they're looking for is in that guy. And that's where I think certain players like Manti Te'o are really going to need to kill it at that interview. I think they know his ability, but it comes down to the choices that you make, the people around your life, and those kind of questions that they ask you. Who really wants to win? Who wants to be a champion in this league?
And now another thing, I mean, the number 1 wide receiver coming into the draft was Keenan Allen, and he didn't work out at the combine at all. And you could definitely say that his stock was hurt because Cordarrelle definitely hopped him. And, I mean, Keenan Allen's on his way to Dr. Andrews to get a second opinion on his PCL sprain. And that's huge.
I mean, like I said, combine's not over yet. Still got another day or 2 left. defensive backs to work out, which is always my favorite day.
Clydesdales.
That's where you see the straight athletes going to work. But we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to go into some MLB talk. Spring training has just begun getting underway, and we're going to be talking about the best batting lineups. Stay with us. Welcome back to Kings Court, guys. Still alongside Marcus, Eric, and Tyler. And we're going to get talking about some baseball spring training. And it's hard to think that a player who was up for MVP candidate last year, Mike Trout, who had a season that we haven't seen since Mickey Mantle, he was only a rookie, and he won Rookie of the Year, and now he's back for his sophomore season. There's another highly touted sophomore, Bryce Harper, who many thought was going to win the Rookie of the Year last year. All your guys' opinion and everything that happened last year and offseason, both of them added 20 pounds of muscle. Trout didn't really need it. Bryce Harper did. Who do you think is going to have a better season? Not who's going to improve more, but who's going to have a better season comparatively?
Let me just start with this one. Not being the baseball buff of the group, it's easy for me to call this one out. I watch enough baseball to see this. Mike Trout is it's simple. It's two words. He's Mike Trout. And really, 129 home runs, 182 hits, 30 homers, 83 RBIs, and a 326 batting average. It's really hard to go against Mike Trout, and it's really hard to go against that Angels team. That Angels team, not only with a very good bullpen, but also with a very good hitting order. It's just hard to go against Mike Trout compared to Bryce Harper when he didn't need the muscle, but he added strength, which is going to add a few more home runs. And Bryce Harper needs almost as much as he can get to line up with Mike Trout for a sophomore season.
Now, both won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
They won it for their deserved conferences. But for me, it's a hard comparison because they're two completely different types of baseball players. Bryce Harper's going to be batting third, fourth in your lineup for the rest of his career. Mike Trout's going to be leading off. Now, every year you're going to compare their statistics. More than likely, Mike Trout's always going to have a higher on-base percentage. He's always going to have a higher batting average. He's always going to have more stolen bases. But for me, Bryce Harper, I mean, you said it's not going to be the bigger improvement, but I do feel like he's definitely going to have the bigger improvement because where can Mike Trout go? I mean, he can't have a better season he can have a better season than he had last year, but that'd be historic.
But that's why I'm not asking who's going to be more improved from their rookie season, but who's going to have a better 2013 campaign.
I think it's going to be Bryce Harper because you look at Bryce Harper's stats. He hit only about 270. He only had 59 RBIs. He only had 22 home runs. He's going to double those RBIs. He's definitely going to be in the 100 RBIs. Is he a 300 type of guy? Who really knows? He strikes out a lot, but he's the focal point of that. I mean, you mentioned it earlier on our radio show. They're going to be able to pitch around Bryce Harper. You can't pitch around Mike Trout because you pitch around Mike Trout. You rather face Albert Pujols, Josh Hamilton, Mark Trumbo? Can't do that.
At this point, you're asking, would you rather face those people or face Mickey Mantle?
I mean, that's really. But and then you mentioned the 20 pounds of muscle. I really don't. Bryce Harper, he had to add that muscle. I mean, he's a powerful guy, but I mean, Trout, he's built like a running back. I mean, really, it's going to be great that we could watch these two kids that are like same age as us, younger than us, play baseball for the next 15 years because I really think that those guys are
the future of the
cream of the crop.
I mean, me personally, this is really hard because Bryce Harper is such a great player. I think in the long run, Bryce Harper is going to be probably one of the best players of all time. He kind of has that Pete Rose kind of style play where he's hard-nosed, mixed with like a little bit of Willie Mays with that flair and that chippiness, like you just said. And I have to be honest with you, I think Mike Trout's going to have the better year. I think that he has a better supporting cast. Plus, he's a little bit older. He's been around the minors for a long time. Even before last season, he was up in the majors, got his feet wet for a little bit. And I think that right now, Bryce Harper is still young. He's still making those little rookie mistakes. And, we've seen at times where he's a little bit too aggressive on the base pass. Maybe he overthrows the cutoff man. And I just think right now Mike Trout is better. I think that he does what he has to do. He makes plays that he should make. He's smart. He knows how to play. And he has the protection behind him. And I just think that he's going to have the better 2013 season right now.
I mean, I agree with that too. I think Trouty is the more refined player when it comes to. He's also almost a year and a half older.
Yeah. I mean, we only really touched on hitting statistics, but they're both 5-tool athletes. I mean, Bryce Harper plays one of the best left fields. I mean, he could throw out anybody from it. He's got a gun. And then Mike Trout's probably the best center fielder going right now.
If you're a rookie and you're capable of moving 10-time Gold Glove winner at center field, Torrey Hunter to right field.
Exactly. I mean,
you have some ability.
Exactly. Last summer, I swear I saw Mike Trout make like 10 over the fence catches in like a month span. I mean, the guy's a freak. He's an athlete.
But when you talk about why you think Mike Trout's going to have a better season based on lineup, Bryce Harper is the focal point. He's the 3 hitter. He's supposed to do everything. Mike Trout's really not leaned on for that, especially with the addition of Josh Hamilton. You need hitting to win. I mean, obviously pitching wins. We discussed pitching before. But when it comes to who has the best lineup, where do you guys stand on that? I'll start with you, Marcus.
Right now, I think as far as lineups, we might look at the Dodgers and look at their lineup. They have Hanley Ramirez, they have Andre Ethier, they have Matt Kemp, Adrian Gonzalez. I mean, they just have like a stacked lineup. Carl Crawford as well, and
A healthy Carl Crawford.
yeah, healthy Carl, healthy one. And I think that that's a great lineup. But I think at the same time too, you also have to find a balance with the lineup too. You can't just have a whole bunch of power hitters because then you have no speed. So for me, I almost have to go more towards the Angels. I think they have a better balanced lineup, and they have more depth. They have Pujols, Josh Hamilton, Mike Trout, like we just said. But wait a minute, we're forgetting about Mark Trumbo,
Exactly.
who's also on the
Wells,
team.
Howard
Vernon
Kendrick,
Wells.
Eric Ibar.
I think that they just have more of a balanced lineup, and I think that's more what you need. Sometimes when you just have a lot of power hitters, that doesn't really help you. It's just
Like, I mean, every team in the MLB, if you don't have a solidified good 3-4 hitter, I mean, your lineup's not going to be good at all.
Right.
Every team. I mean, you could say the Tigers, but really the core of their lineup is Prince Fielder and Cabrera.
Yeah.
I mean, they have Austin Jackson, but, I mean, it's hard to just differ from the Angels because what they're putting up right now is really almost unheard of. I mean, last year they go out and get Albert Pujols. Yes, he was used to NL pitching his whole career. He comes over, doesn't have his best career. He has to get used to that AL pitching, but he's used to it. This year,
No excuse now.
No excuse now.
Yeah.
He's gonna have one of his better seasons, guaranteed, hands down. Especially when you put a guy like Josh Hamilton behind him, protecting him, and then you got a guy like Mark Trumbo, and then you got Vernon Wells, and
Howard
then
Kendrick.
Exactly, and then you're leading all that off with Mike Trout, who's gonna steal probably like 60 bases. I mean, the guy, we've been going on about him this whole show, but he really is one of the best baseball players I've ever seen. And but the thing about the Angels is you have to worry about that pitching staff. I know we're talking about hitting lineups, but I mean, you could look at the Yankees teams of past, look at the Braves teams of past. You have to go with the pitching that goes along with that hitting lineup.
Tyler?
It's really hard for me to differentiate from that. I mean, when you look at their lineup, there's so much all-star power. There's so much slugging percentage. There's so much everything in this Angels lineup. Like we said, Mike Trout, Eric Ibar, Albert Pujols, Josh Hamilton, Mike Trumbo, Vernon Wells, Howard Kendrick. There's so many guys on this roster that just are going to send it over the fence. And really, you don't want to bet against Mike Trout. But do you really want to bet against Albert Pujols? Do you really want to bet against Josh Hamilton? Guys who have been hitting and destroying this league when it comes to slugging percentage and home runs and on-base percentage and almost every statistic you could think of. It's really hard to bet against these guys, and that's not even something I want to do. I can't even try to be biased and say anything from Philadelphia for that. It's really nothing that I could do to really slight against this Angels team. Now, you could say the Tigers. Of course, you could say the Dodgers, all the acquisitions they've just put up, but this Angels team is just, it's just, ooh.
Now, Braves also took strides. I mean, they go out and get the other Upton brother. I mean, the beginning of their line was going to be B.J. Upton, Justin Upton, Hayward, Freeman. I mean, they're definitely making strides as well.
And Dan Ugla too is definitely more than capable in my opinion. So I think that right now, like we all just said, the Angels have the better line.
Seems like Southern California's got a pretty good lock on this.
And Mike Scioscia too is the perfect coach to bring them all together.
Yeah. Everything's concentrated right in that Southern California area. The rest of the country's going to have to catch up. Before we get out of here, we'll give you a nice little sports recap of what's just been going on the past week. UFC, we had our first UFC women's fight. Ronda Rousey defeated Liz Carmouche in a first round by armbar submission. As you remember, Ronda Rousey won all of her Strikeforce fights by that armbar submission. And then in NASCAR, the biggest race, Daytona 500, Jimmy Johnson takes home the victory. Obviously, we know Jimmy's 5-time in a row champ, winning the biggest race they got. Danica Patrick won the pole, first woman to ever win the pole in the event. She finished 8th, so pretty good finish for her. I'd like to thank you guys for staying with us here on Kings Court and KCTV. I've been your host, Matt Capo, and for Marcus Mewborn, Eric Drevich, and Tyler Tynes. You keep watching, we'll keep talking. Have a good night, guys.